Again, I am Ray Dickey from South Carolina CAI, Hudson Valley CAI, and Association Help Now. We are covering a lot of states today. I love it when we cover a lot of states, but it's hard because I have to rush everyone all the time. But we'll see how we do. We are going to talk about, is your association in good shape? I do this program every year. I haven't had to change it much. I think it's pretty good. People seem to really like it. Before I go any further, if you are here for CEUs, let me run the poll here. Click yes to end the poll right here. Okay, excellent. So with that being said, let's have our panel introduce themselves with who I see first, and that is Elliot.
Hey everybody, my name is Elliot Engstrom. I'm an attorney at Sellers, Heirs, Dorchester Lyons in Charlotte. We represent planned communities and condominiums throughout North Carolina and South Carolina.
Oh, I'm already hearing that Dave is a very fashionable guy. Okay, great. Cory.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Cory Kravit. I'm the managing principal of Kravit, Schifrin, Nesbitt's Florida office. We're a national community association law firm with offices in Florida, Illinois, Indiana, and Wisconsin.
Gregg.
Good morning, everyone. Gregg Gerelli with Gerelli Insurance Agency. We're located in Cold Spring, New York, and we have insurance master policy programs for condos, co-ops, and townhomes throughout New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania.
Jeremy.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jeremy Fernando. I'm an attorney with Herzl Law. We represent associations in Michigan and Illinois. I'm licensed in Illinois and Michigan as well.
John.
John LaGumina from the LaGumina Law Firm in Purchase, New York. We represent condominiums, HOAs, and co-ops from New York City throughout the Hudson Valley areas.
You know, John, we didn't see each other for almost a month because I kind of took December off. Did you think about me at all?
I miss you, Ray.
Did you think about me during the holidays at all?
Constantly.
You didn't reach out though. Okay, well, we'll see what happens. Maybe next year I'll get a card. That'd be great. Dawn.
Hi, my name's Dawn Becker-Durin, and I'm a CIRMS, which is a community insurance risk management specialist in the insurance industry. I work with Acrisure, and I'm the practice leader for community associations across the country. And we are a private company. However, we are nationwide as well as global.
All right. Kristen.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Christian Saville. I'm an attorney with McCabe, Trotter, and Beverly in our Columbia, South Carolina office. We also have an office in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, and we represent community associations throughout the Carolinas.
And Dave.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Dave Byrne. I'm the chairperson of my law firm's community association group, Ansel, Grimm, and Aaron, and we represent HOAs, condominiums, cooperatives in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania.
All right, so we're going to go through, is your association in really good shape? I think this is a pretty good checklist, and I'm going to launch a quick poll to wake everybody up out there. And let me find my polls. This always takes me a while. Is this year going to be easier or harder than last year? I wish I looked up what everyone said last year. Elliot, I know you could probably see what's going on with it, but what do you think our audience is going to say?
I think they're going to say harder.
Okay, let me go through the panel really quick. Cory.
Harder.
Gregg.
Harder.
Jeremy.
Harder.
All right. Is anybody going to say easier? All right, let's just.
I'm actually going to disagree with Gregg. I think in the Southeast, we're actually going to see some great insurance renewal terms.
Okay, well, 72% said harder. No one agrees with Dawn's optimism.
I'll take Dawn's spot, back her up if I have to.
Are you doing that just to be nice, Dave, and you really don't mean it?
Yeah, I don't like anybody being ostracized and put out on this.
No, I feel bad. Did I ostracize her? Okay. All right. I see we're off to a good start for this year. Okay, so what I told the attorneys today, and I'm going to keep everybody on, is I'm going to give each attorney each one of these, but I'm going to go very quickly through the other attorneys just to make sure that we don't miss anything. And I also told them to go ahead and interrupt me at any time. Obviously, the insurance stuff is going to pop up also, so you guys will just kind of interrupt me also. So the first one I have, this is kind of like the top 16, I guess. Maybe it's not in order. Insurance coverage. So how can an association know if they're in good shape with insurance coverage? I'll start with Dawn.
Well, it's always going to go back to the governing documents for me. first you have to make sure that you're adhering at least at minimum to the requirements for the crime insurance, fidelity coverage, liability, etc. Next step is to meet with your insurance broker. You should be meeting with them not just before you renew or right after, but in the middle of the year to catch up on projects and updates and other things that might be going on of concern, or to just manage your risk.
Gregg, what do you think is going to be, I don't know if you can answer it. What do you think is going to be an easy thing for people to miss out on this year, not pay attention to?
An easy thing to miss out on insurance? Well, it's just missing that annual review, like Dawn was just talking about. I mean, you really want to go over your insurance coverages. Associations change, things change within the community that you don't realize could affect your coverage and how things are written and how questions are answered on applications, etc. So you want to make sure that you are doing that annual review.
I'm going to say cyber insurance. Dawn and I just did a great segment on, were you there, Gregg? I forgot.
No, I had the flu and I wasn't going to hack it up on your cyber webinar.
I'll send everyone the link. I thought it was a great interview and I learned a lot. And I think cyber insurance is going to be something that people should definitely take a look at and get this year. I don't know. That's just my opinion. Dawn or Gregg, I don't want to get into a whole thing on cyber, but do you have a problem that I said that?
No, but I also want to add that we're seeing a lot of requests for quotes for workplace violence. So while the insurance marketplace may be seeing some decreases in some parts, we're definitely seeing uptick with claims and assault and battery allegations and threats.
Well, I said before we went live that the insurance people always set, that is an awful way. I am glad you told everyone, but that is an awful way to set the tone for the new year. But it is your job, Dawn, to make us aware.
Well, the attorneys are going to have a lot to talk about with that.
Okay. All right. So the next one is operating with a balanced budget. I don't know why I have this on here every year, Elliot, but I do feel the need to have it on there. Am I correct or am I wrong?
I think you're correct. I think that's something that associations need to be looking at every year, and that involves some level of planning, possibly a reserve study. It also involves making sure you understand what are we responsible for paying for in terms of insurance and maintenance, so you have an understanding of what you need to prepare to be bringing in your budget.
Cory, do associations have to have a balanced budget?
Well, remember the budget is an estimate of what they project the maintenance and costs of the association are going to be. So yes, it should be balanced, but you really won't know until the end of the year if you're on pace or a little bit ahead or a little bit over.
Gregg, will insurance companies look at the budget?
Yes, they're going to want to see your financial report, want to see that you have a good operating budget, that you're planning to take care of items, and that you're not just deferring maintenance.
Jeremy, any additional commentary on budgets? May not be
nothing really. I feel like everyone else kind of hit on it. I will say that I have a couple associations who put in fines as kind of a line item and try to project the amount of fines that they'll collect. I don't necessarily recommend that, but would love to hear kind of everyone else's thoughts on that.
What about that, John? Do you think fines should, be a line item?
No, I don't think they should be a line item. How can you project fines? I think the most important part of a budget is that it is adequate, because I've seen plenty of associations where, they're not paying us. A certain percentage aren't going to pay you, and your bills are just going up. So the budget has to be both balanced and adequate.
Okay. Dawn, really quick, question from the audience. Is there an index that reflects the general increase of insurance cost year over year?
No, but I would recommend looking at your own historical trends, because insurance can be really proprietary to your specific location, to your own building, as far as the age, construction, location. We have a lot of people who say, well, why is the condo association next door to us paying less or paying more? So it's going to be really looking at your own and having a good topic. You can also look at the industry trends. We're seeing more capacity right now. I do want to comment real quick, though, on the budget. From an insurance perspective, as Gregg mentioned, our underwriters want to see your financials. Why? Because if there are a large percentage of delinquencies and there are problems with the budget, we could see an assessment coming into the future. Those special assessments often result in claims.
Okay. Kristen, should maybe this is an accounting question. Should a late fee collection be a line item?
I would not say so. And also I will say that your jurisdiction and local courts may even vary as to how they might be willing to enforce those late fees. So it would be my recommendation not to.
Dave, let me play devil's advocate. I have a historical track record at my association for late fees. I have it for 10 years. It's consistent. Can I not include it in the budget?
Yeah, I agree with what the guys are saying, especially what John said. But it's weird because I see late fees on budgets. I've seen them for 30 years. I think they just do it because it's an accounting thing. Like they need to book the money in a certain line. I don't think it's any more any sexier than that. But I don't understand why you would as a sort of a budgetary thing. You're sort of estimating a certain amount of income based on people's malfeasance. It's like hoping the police get enough tickets in order to pay the municipal budget. It's like sort of unseemly.
We don't have time, but I would be curious if they do that. If municipalities put in the police revenue from tickets in advance of the budget. Does anybody in the panel know? I'm just curious. Okay, maybe if anybody in the audience knows, let me know. All right, so I want to fly through this one. Like I said, we got 16 to go through. Adequate reserves. I mean, oh my gosh, like how many, it's so important, but like how many times we have to talk about this? I'm going to go through everybody really quick. Elliot, I mean, you got to have it. End of story.
You got to have it. If you don't have it, you need to begin working on it immediately. And again, it goes back to your statutes and your governing documents as to what are we required to maintain and what does that maintenance look like over 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. That's a big part of what goes into projecting out what your reserves are going to need to be.
Okay. Cory, anything additional on reserves? Greg, Jeremy, John, Dawn.
Don't kick the can down the road.
Don't kick the can down the road. That would,
Please.
I don't know why this is still a thing with everything that's going on in news. I don't know why people, Dave, why don't people have it?
Well, in some states like New Jersey, there are very specific mandates when it comes to reserves. For years in New Jersey, it was, quote unquote, adequate reserves, which left to the imagination as to what the number was going to be. There wasn't a lot of control over it. Now there's a statutory requirement that the number be a certain amount. There are requirements that amounts be specifically laid out in certain columns. The money can't be moved from one column to another. So I think it was Elliot that said about checking your documents and your statutes. I mean, from state to state, some states may be very strict on what you're supposed to do with reserves, and some states may be very lax and just use words like adequate, reasonable, that kind of thing.
Yeah, we've done in-depth interviews on that if anybody's interested. Cory, is there a certain percentage of total annual assessments that should be collected? Can you do that one quick?
I mean, ideally, you want to collect 100% of your assessments. There's no reason not to. And if you're not collecting it, then you need to talk to your attorney to initiate the collections, so that you are. Otherwise, you're promising yourself a deficit, and you're going to have to essentially special assess everyone else to cover those costs.
Okay, I'm going to make a statement. Hopefully, Dawn and Greg will let me get by with it so we can continue. Insurance companies are going to care, and so will the bank in regard to lending. Greg, was I okay for insurance? Okay.
Correct. They don't want to see a large number of delinquencies.
Right. Anybody on the panel disagree that also banks care in regard to lending? Okay. Is there any other industry that cares that I'm not mentioning? Okay. See, Kristen, I'm just flying through. I don't know where my honorary law degree is. I just know so much from doing so many of these. Okay. Next one is delinquencies under control. Well, we just did that one, I think. No, I did adequate reserves. Now I'm doing delinquencies, right? So I feel like this is the same kind of like the reserves. Jeremy, you got to have them under control, right?
You do, and as Cory mentioned, it's the association board's fiduciary duty to collect these assessments 100%. So if you do have delinquencies, it's important not only to have a collection policy, but to adhere to that policy and get it into the hands of your attorney so that you can collect delinquencies. At the end of the day, it's going to fall on the lap of the neighbors.
John, why do associations let their delinquencies get out of control? Is it because they don't have time to do them? They don't pay attention? The manager's not doing a good job? Why?
Well, I don't want to blame the boards, the managers. I think the blame should lay with the people that aren't paying. But yeah, if you know they're not paying, you ought to hire an attorney and get the number. I think we talked about the number banks look at. I often see they want it under 5%. So yeah, you should have a comprehensive plan on how to handle all your arrears. It should be done uniformly, and if it gets out of control, there could be a variety of reasons. But you know, I don't think you need to blame. I think you just need to attack it as aggressively as you can.
Okay. I would blame people, but that's me. Somebody's in charge of it. Dawn, insurance percentage. Somebody wants to know, is there a set percentage? Can you give it to me quickly?
Yeah, actually, it's very similar to the banks. And we're really looking at the trend. Is there a sudden increase or a spike from the year prior? And the percentage rates, you know, we certainly don't want to get in over 15%, because then they're going to be calling Dave or Christian, and they're going to want to put liens on homeowners, and it's a mad scramble.
Kristen, have you ever done a collections issue? Have you ever handled that?
Our firm has an entire team that does nothing but collections. I am on the other team that does everything else, but the fact that we do have a whole team dedicated to it will show just how much of a fundamental duty that is of an association.
Dave, delinquencies. Same question as John. Why don't associations just hop on them? They know they're there. They get a report.
I think the main issue is probably a fear of attorney fees, which is a reasonable fear. I also think associations should be judicious in looking at the actual report. Not all delinquencies are created equal. Some associations are carrying receivables, debts from years ago with respect to owners that have long since been gone. They lost their homes to sheriff sales. God forbid they died. I mean, there's no reasonable chance that these amounts are going to be recovered, yet they're still sitting on your balance sheet. I think that's hugely a mistake.
Okay. And then I believe, you know, lawyers, help me out. Make sure I hit all you guys. I'm going in order. You can see that I think John's next. If I'm not, just kind of like yell out and I'll go back. John, number 12 is who is reviewing the expenses and are they optimized? I never really understand when I ask this one. Are we regularly reviewing contracts, utility costs, and other expenditures to ensure we are getting the best value for the services? Well, there you go. That's what I'm mentioning. Comment.
Yeah, I mean, that should be part of your annual budgeting process, right? You have proposals. Even if you have existing contractors, you should still check the market to see that their prices are reasonable. It doesn't mean you have a duty to get 3 bids for every project. You don't. That's public law in New York is you do, but not condos are free to use. You could use the same vendor for decades without having to get proposals, but prudent management would be make sure your prices are in line. And I don't think you have to do it. I think it's part of the annual budget process, and you also, your professional property manager should be guiding you throughout the year.
Kristen, commentary on this as far as legal aspects go.
I will say that if anything, we typically see folks budgeting less for anticipated legal expenses than what they actually incur. I will say be sure just to know that you haven't had legal issues in prior years should not mean that you should not budget accordingly, because all it takes is one lawsuit for many associations to really blow their budget out of the water.
Dave, we don't have time, but tell me if this is true. I remember you coming up with something. I remember it. You said once that many times boards and managers don't pay attention to those little contracts for attorney review, and they end up hurting them sometimes more than the bigger ones. Am I remembering that correct?
Yeah, I think so. My feeling is a lot associations tend to refer contracts out to lawyers when the project is large in a numeric sense. But I've often told clients that there are some contracts that involve small amounts of money that involve large potential exposures, like paying a contractor to repair your railings on your clubhouse for $3,000, whereas if a railing is not, compliant with disability related codes, you might be looking at a significant exposure. So that's the thing. It's a focus for lawyers would be the value of the contract, and then maybe the issue, whether or not the potential issue could open you to exposure if the work is not done correctly.
See, I do remember things. I do remember when you guys tell me things. Elliot, what happens when your board doesn't understand contracts and your management company isn't managing them properly?
That can lead to a lot of different problems, from not properly executing a contract, meaning maybe there's not a contract at all, to entering into contracts that just don't have great terms, to not knowing that a contract has expired. Some contracts have terms that 3-year term and then it expires, and if nobody's aware of that, that could be an issue. So you want to make sure you're monitoring what contracts you have, how long they go for, and other issues related to those.
Cory, any additional commentary for contracts?
Yeah, be very careful with the renewal deadlines. Sometimes they'll automatically renew, or there's a short window that you have where you can cancel the auto renewal. And sometimes I've seen contracts where they renew for 10 years at a time. Take special notice to elevator contracts, laundry machine contracts, cable contracts. Those are the ones that are going to bite you.
The person who just sent me the comment about not being allowed to see them, I'm sorry, I don't have my notes in front of me. I recognize your name. Could you just let me know if you're a board member or a manager? I'm not going to say who you are. I'm just curious where your question's coming from. Gregg, we don't have a lot of time, but insurance companies, right?
Cannot stress the importance of having a proper contract enough. That is what is going to help you in the long run. You want to make sure you have the right indemnification in there, that you're getting additional insured certificates from whether it's a small job or a large job, that the people coming onto your site are properly insured and you have proper contracts to transfer risk if something should happen.
Jeremy, contracts. Question from the board, I have lots of these questions are from the audience, by the way. I love that I'm getting questions. This person was a manager and a previous board member would not share the contracts with the manager. Jeremy, that seems to be kind of a red flag, I guess, unless the whole board's aware of it.
Yeah, I would view that as somewhat of a red flag. I think you should be sharing your contracts with your manager and your attorney. But real quick side note, Ray, I just want to touch upon for people in Illinois, snow and ice removal vendors, I feel like they have pretty aggressive contracts, and those contracts typically do not get reviewed by attorneys, and they have, like Cory said, sometimes pretty aggressive renewal terms. So those are some vendor contracts to look out for if you live in Illinois.
Dawn, you love contracts. I send you all the contracts that you do our insurance, right? For the chapter and for my company. I always send you the contracts. You love contracts. You sit around with your kids and you read contracts at dinner. Why don't people, what I'm getting at is send your insurance person the contract, right?
Right, because insurance is a transfer of risk. The contract is the transfer from one party to another for responsibilities in performance, right? So a lot of times people are just saying, well, we've used this vendor so many times before, or what could go wrong? They're a big company. And it really takes a detailed eye to look at the insurance requirements for the contractor. And I love that Jeremy brought up snow and ice removal, with the exception of the Southeast and California. Well, not, in the lower part. We're really seeing a lot of these contracts come through that are not in favor of the association. In fact, those companies are tired of paying all these lawsuits, so they'll tell the contractor, if you want this coverage, it's going to have to require this contract wording, and it's not favorable.
Oh boy. Okay. Kristen, financial reports, are they transparent and up to date? I feel like a lot of the things are related.
Absolutely. I mean, this is, ultimately the transparency is going to lead to the accountability for all the things we've already discussed. And speaking for South Carolina, we have statutory responsibilities for what HOAs have to provide to homeowners in terms of financial statements and accounting. And I'm sure most other states do as well. And it's also important, though, to make sure you're looking at what your governing documents may require, because they may require some transparency even above and beyond what your state law requires.
Dave, we don't have time, but we could probably spend a full hour on transparency issues, correct?
Oh, certainly, especially even just getting to the point of what do you mean by transparency?
Would you like to spend an hour with me one time, Dave?
In person or virtually?
I like to have lunch over breakfast, and we can invite the spouses because they find us
Sure,
fascinating.
sure.
Okay, Elliot, any additional commentary on transparency? I mean, without eating up too much time.
I just encourage people to remember most homeowners associations, not all, but most are nonprofit corporations. And so you're subject to the laws on transparency for nonprofit corporations. And in addition to your governing documents, which is something to keep in mind when you get records requests and requests for financial records.
Oh, by the way, Dawn sent me this awesome thing, and I want to do a session on it, Dawn, where it was an actual court case where they went and they subpoenaed like the phone records and stuff, and it was shocking. So just to let everybody know, I want to hop on that. And thank you, Dawn, for sending it to me. That will be a great session.
There is a difference. I think the lawyers will agree with this. There is a big difference between your transparency obligations to owners who are looking for contracts and financial records versus your obligations in the event of a subpoena or discovery. You know, I think that a board member's emails back and forth amongst each other are probably not corporate records, at least in the states I practice. But in a lawsuit, they certainly would be discoverable and subject to subpoena, et cetera. So there's a difference there, and keep that in mind.
All right, let's not get too excited because we know that we could probably spend an hour on that. I know we could. Where was I? Who did I speak to last? I lost track. Who was the last lawyer?
I think me.
Cory. We paid our pool operator a record $700 a month for 12 months when our pool is open for 4 months a year. We've done that 2 years in a row that I became aware of. Our pool contractor was forging our water readings 4 days a week. We had him back again. That sounds awful, right, Cory? I mean, what commentary can you make on that?
Sounds terrible. At least where I'm from, our pools are open year round. So I don't know what happens when it's closed down. But at least in Florida, you know, there are maintenance. I mean, the health departments in each county down here requires a certain level of maintenance for the pools. So I would even if a pool's, I mean, I don't know if you take the water out in the winter. I don't know how it works up there, but
it's dicey
I would
too
think there'd
because
be a maintenance fee every month.
They keep having them back, so there's something dicey with the whole thing. You know what I mean? Jeremy, our board's required to show vendor invoices to owners. If you can't do it quick, we're gonna have to skip it.
I believe those would be corporate records, so I believe that you probably would be obligated, but I think it would obviously depend on the state.
John, New York.
Yeah, I mean, the trend is an owner is entitled to pretty much anything related to how common charges are spent.
Kristen, South Carolina.
I would say so. I think it would fall under the umbrella.
Dave, is it going to be the circumstances? It depends, or?
I don't think there's any doubt in the states where I practice that the owners are entitled to see invoices.
Okay. Elliot and Cory, agree? You have to show invoices. I think I already went to Cory on this. Elliot.
Yeah,
I'd agree. I think they're likely accounting records under the statute that requires records to be shown to owners.
Okay. Any insurance issues, Dawn?
There's always insurance issues.
Right? I know. You can always come up with an angle or a connection. You love insurance. So does Gregg. Gregg, any insurance issues?
No, just stating the insurance companies do want to see the financial reports. So it's not unusual to send your financial report to your insurance agent for them to be working on your insurance.
Oh, you're so nosy. You want to know everything.
It's also about adhering to the lending requirements. And if we're not insuring at least 3 months of annual assessments plus the reserves, then that can inhibit a owner from getting a preferred rate or even a loan at all. And no one wants to hear that because of a simple insurance matter, someone couldn't buy a home in your community.
Okay, so thank you, Dawn. I'm looking for trouble on this one. I do this poll every year, and we don't have a lot of time to spend on it. Let's see what happens. I'm going to do it at the same time. I hate how everyone can see the poll actually take place. So I'm going to launch it. An owner requested to personally ask board members if they are utilizing a vendor. Do they have the right to know that? is a board member required to answer an owner's request? Hey, are you personally using one of our vendors? Elliot.
Like for their own personal stuff?
Yeah, they want to know, hey, board member, are you using this vendor also that is also working for the association? Do they have a right to know and get information about that?
Yeah, I don't think so. There are statutes about conflicts of interest in nonprofit corporations, but that doesn't immediately, in my mind, trigger just because the vendor serves the HOA. You can't also have them do stuff for you.
Okay, so looks like we're at 59% as far as the audience and 41%. So it's pretty much split as far as the audience goes. Let's see if we can fly through it. And lawyers, if you can't, I know it's not fair to you sometimes. Cory.
If the vendor, if in the conflict of interest statute in Florida, if the contract is under review to hire the vendor, then it could be disclosed then. It would probably need to be disclosed then. But if it's already a vendor and they want to use me to cut their lawn, I don't think that board member has any duty to even talk to the person about it.
Jeremy.
I mean, if the board member is personally involved in that as the contractor or whatnot, then yeah. But if not, I don't think it's anybody's business personally.
John.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, unless there's an affiliation, I agree with Elliot and Jeremy and Cory.
Okay, so this is going to change things up, Kristen, but I want to ask if the audience did. How about the management company?
It is the question whether if the management company uses that vendor for other communities, do they have to disclose that? Or
I think that I should rephrase the question. If they're working with the vendor and getting some kind of commission basis or some kind of reward out of it?
Oh, then I think it would just be a best business practice for the management company to disclose that to the board. Now, whether that creates a responsibility of the board to inform the owners that the management company works with these people, I think that's highly questionable and unlikely.
Okay, Dave, how about you want to do how about the management company?
I mean, it really depends on the precise circumstances. Management companies, I think, certainly have an obligation to disclose financial relationships they have with vendors, and I see a lot of those disclosures now. But whether owners have certain rights to inspect records, that's a different question. And I agree with the guys earlier that absent a deposition, I don't know that a board member has an obligation to answer any question you pose to him. He may not get reelected as a politician, but from a legal matter, absent a deposition, that you don't have to stand there and allow yourself to be questioned by an owner as to who you're hiring and how much you pay them and that sort of thing.
A lot of the audience is saying our residents would go crazy if we were not transparent in that manner. And they would, I could absolutely see that happening. If a board member was using an association vendor and not being transparent about it. Overwhelmingly, I'm getting a lot of comments in that regard. And I could definitely see that also. And I appreciate the comments. Thank you. Dave, number 10, is it a board effective and transparent in regard, have they reviewed and updated the governing documents to reflect, let me take a step back, Dave, in regard to our board members our board meetings held regularly and conducted in accordance with governing documents, are the minutes shared properly with the community? Dave, I think every year boards should ask themselves the most basic of questions and spend the time doing that. Is it unnecessary, or do you agree with me?
Yeah, that's probably that would probably be helpful in a variety of different ways, especially if there's some fiduciary duty lawsuit down the road. You're able to point to time spent to review protocols and processes. But when it comes to minutes and board meetings and notices and stuff, a lot of that's regulated by statute. So there isn't a lot of discretion in regards, at least where the states I practice.
Elliot, is it unrealistic to think that this would happen, that boards would spend the time on it?
I don't know that I think every single year you've got to look at updating your governing documents. I see that as a longer process, likely over time, unless there's specific flashpoints that come up. But it's probably a good idea to every once in a while have a board or a committee, maybe a covenants committee, take a look at the covenants and see what might we want to change, what can we change.
Cory, I'm thinking also like maybe like what documents do we have to provide people? What has changed over the last year that maybe we're not aware of? Is it worth the time or is it overkill?
I think that's where it comes down to having a really good property manager to keep you, informed of what needs to be done, how the processes need to be and it's usually done right after an election because you have potentially new people. And the biggest thing I always hear is, well, this is the way it's always been done, and that's usually doing it wrong for many years. So it's probably a good idea just to go over everything and give a little refresher. In Florida now, there's continuing education classes requirement for board members to refresh everyone's memories on what their duties are.
Jeremy, sometimes people don't think about these things until someone really pushes the point. Do you agree?
I do agree, but I would also echo kind of what Elliot said. Like in 2018, the Illinois Condominium Property Act was basically totally rewritten, and a lot of associations that we represent haven't updated their governing documents since then. So I would highly recommend it. But oftentimes, boards have other issues that they have to address before rewriting their governing documents, unfortunately.
John, if you can't do it quickly, we don't have time to do it. Should open discussions be included in meeting? Just very quick description. What should be in the meeting minutes?
Meeting minutes should be limited to actions taken, not side discussions.
Anybody in the panel want to add commentary to that? Disagree? Okay.
I agree completely.
Excellent. Dawn, do you ever find the minutes must come up in lawsuits all the time, I would imagine, so they need to be done properly? Agree or disagree?
I disagree. It does get referenced, it does get asked about. I wouldn't know if Gregg or I would always see that in the discovery part, because once the claim has been tendered, Gregg or I really don't, as retail independent agents, get involved in the claim adjustment process.
Cory, I think that was the first time I was wrong today, if you're keeping track. Gregg, any commentary? Insurance and
No, I agree. We're not usually privileged to that type of information when that claim is progressing through.
Darn it. I was going for 100% today. Review, are the governing documents up to date? We just kind of did that one. Okay. Effective communication with owners. I'm up to Elliot. I think they just need to review. Are they doing a good job? I don't make these up, by the way. This is based on my research. Are they doing a good board? Should they ask themselves every year, are we really doing a good job?
Yeah, I mean, there's certain legal requirements in terms of notices for meetings and stuff like that, but I think you're talking more just about letting the owners know what's going on with the community. And honestly, with those kind of communications, I usually say less is more. I mean, get out your message, but you don't have to give your whole train of thought. Especially remember, in the communications to the members generally, at least in North and South Carolina, those are records everybody can see later.
Okay, so you interrupt me, Elliot, if I'm not hearing you right. Elliot just said something interesting, Cory, because I'm bouncing around with you guys. I think the way I heard it was communication is important, keeping people updated, but don't send out too much stuff about that the deck got updated, or, you don't need to go into a full details. You want to kind of keep people updated in a condensed version. Elliot, if I got that wrong, just interrupt me.
I agree with that.
Cory, what do you think of that?
I don't think people are going to read long things anyway. They're busy with their lives, and usually their community associations aren't at the top of their priorities. At the same time, when rumors get around and things go wrong, that's when effective communication is essential to stop those rumors. And I think that's where, putting information on websites and making it easily available is help curbing those issues.
Gregg, insurance, I don't want to get into a whole topic on it, but insurance companies do look at communications and they do look what goes on in social media, and they're getting better and better at it. Is that true or false?
Oh, that's true. Especially you're submitting a new account. They're going to do research on that association, especially a larger association with a higher premium, and they may find that group of all the owners complaining about that account and saying this isn't being fixed, that isn't being fixed, and that's going to come back and hurt you from the insurance standpoint.
Jeremy, the audience is overwhelming, says nobody reads anything. Yep, I would agree. It's not the first time I heard it. How about you?
I agree with that. And I agree with what Cory said for the most part. I mean, there's probably 2% of people in associations who actually care about what's going on. But then again, under statute, there are certain things you have to disclose.
John, someone is saying, I don't even think our owners can read, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just basing it on experience. John, commentary.
That sounds bad.
I'll put that in the minutes.
Yeah, so I think what I'm hearing implied here is that the board should be, doing all these detailed minutes and reviewing their bylaws every year. And I think you have to be more realistic. Boards, they're volunteers. Most of them have jobs during the day. Who's got all the time to do all this? They don't. And the part that irritates me is that they don't work for the owners. They're volunteers that step up to help manage the common areas. They don't work for the owners. They're not providing a service.
Dawn, that's why I mentioned if it was realistic, right? Like sometimes we sit here and we go through all these things that boards should do. But John's right. I meant they're volunteers. They got a lot of other stuff going on. Agree or disagree?
Agree.
Kristen, who is responsible to provide the rules and regulations to new buyers? Is it the seller? Oh boy, this is going to get us off track. The buyer's attorney, the buyer's real estate agent, the board, or the management company, or me? Well, I know it's not me. Thank you. Kristen, is this one we can't tackle right now? Because we got 17 minutes left and I got 6 more to go.
I think perhaps the even more applicable way of framing it for HOA purposes is, at least in South Carolina, just because a realtor did not provide these people a copy of the covenants in hand does not mean that the HOA cannot enforce its covenants, and those folks aren't responsible for complying with the governing documents that are recorded in their county.
The person that sent that, I am going to do that as a standalone pre-recorded segment, and I will grab the attorneys. Any attorneys have any commentary on this? Very quickly, anyone?
Just real quick, I agree. That's constructive notice. Really, there's no one who has to supply it. If we're talking about the government documents, they're recorded with the county clerk, and legally, you're on notice that they're there, and you should read them.
I'm surprised you guys weren't going to tell me, like Cory, that this isn't going to become like a state requirement. Like this isn't going to be legislated at some point.
The real estate contract, in Florida, we do things a lot differently than New York and whatnot. But the real estate forms in Florida now, it's a contractual obligation of the seller to provide those governing documents and other documents. And if that's not done, then the purchase agreement can be terminated by the buyer for not receiving it.
Yeah, why not just make it the real estate agents? They're highly regulated, just like Dawn and Gregg are highly regulated for insurance. Make it part of their responsibility. Do you disagree?
They're not parties to the contract. It's between the buyer and the seller.
Yeah. God, now I'm wrong again. Cory's going to take points off on that. Okay. Oh boy, this is a big one. Clear processes resolving rule disputes. Clear processes. Cory, starting with you.
Yes, especially when it comes to fining. In Florida, there's a specific prerequisites that need to be put in place and notices before levying a fine. There's different ways to deal with disputes, at least in Florida, whether you go the fining route or you go the enforcement route. And you got to talk to your attorney before you start it, because if you screw up in the beginning, you're not going to get anywhere.
Jeremy, can I just say, and then I'll go to the panel. Yes, yes, yes. You got to know what you're doing, and you got to be talking to an attorney to make sure you're doing this properly, or you're going to end up having a lawsuit.
Yes, but real quick for the Illinois people in the audience, please, before you fine anybody, provide them notice and an opportunity to be heard. Too many times the association will fine them and then provide them with a hearing. That's grounds for a lawsuit. So please, for the Illinois people listening, please just provide notice and an opportunity to be heard prior to fining.
John, commentary.
100% agree. I actually advise my clients to give more than one notice. The more notice, it doesn't really hurt that much, and it's going to help you if you actually do end up litigating it.
Kristen.
Just certainly want to make sure you comply with whatever policies you have in your governing documents. And I generally in South Carolina recommend against adopting overly rigid or terribly specific fine policy saying X amount for X violation, because what often happens is you have future boards who didn't adopt that policy, forget about the policy, they have one technical misstep and it completely leads to a lawsuit or some sort of frustration of efforts.
Dave, someone just sent me a video where a homeowner was fined for shoveling their own walkway because they want the company to do it because they want everyone's walkway to look consistently shoveled. What do you think about that rule?
I don't know. It might be silly. I think Christian's point is really, really good, really solid. I say it to clients all the time. And this kind of goes back to what John said before. I don't know that it's good for a board to necessarily sort of over lawyer their procedures and make 10 days you have to send this and 20 days you have to send this. I've had a couple of disputes over the past several years where we feel we have a pretty good case and a owner comes in to the forum with a copy of a resolution from 1997, which provides that there was supposed to be 60 days notice plus a Christmas card before you could levy a fine, and no one knew anything about it. And that's a real problem, or it can be a real problem.
Elliot.
Probably the biggest thing managers and board members get frustrated with me about is when I push back on fines. And I think part of the reason for that is because they don't understand on the flip side how much judges hate fines and how particular you have to be before you can prove to the judge, yes, we're enforcing this.
Gregg, is this a basis for a lot of lawsuits?
Huge basis for a lot of lawsuits. This is where we see a lot of discrimination claims. And what I want to just mention to people with these rules and having a written and clear policy is you need to be equal in how these rules are used against different unit owners, and make sure it's not easy for a member that you're pursuing with a fine or you're taking action against to show that another board member wasn't treated that same way.
Don, I knew Gregg was going to say discrimination because it means it's the biggest thing, right? True or false?
I would say yes, and it's also one of the most costliest claims that a community association can have.
Pay attention, boards and managers. You want to know what you're doing in this regard. Okay, this always, I'm not going to let it take a lot of time, but this is always another one. Should board members consider who's going to be on the board next? Is there a responsibility for transition? I'm not saying that they should cheat or anything. I'm saying, is this part of their job to try to get the right people to run for the board? After all, it's the future of the association. Very quick panel, because we're down to 11 minutes. I will start off with Elliot.
I mean, legally, I don't think it's their responsibility. Is it a good idea for the health of your community? Yes.
Okay, so it's changing here. Cory.
I think it's a part of leadership to make sure that what's in the best interest of the corporation, of the association, and make sure that you have continued very good leadership.
Gregg, this is more of an opinion question, not a legal one. So 62% of the audience went with sure. How about you?
Yeah, I agree. Yes. Very hard time in our area sometimes getting people even to run for the board, but they're usually thinking about who's next and trying to groom somebody and bring them along to help fill positions.
Does that, Jeremy, John, Dawn, Kristen, or Dave, do you disagree?
No, I agree with everything.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think board members don't have a fiduciary duty to find new people, but it's certainly appropriate for that to take place.
Okay. If it's okay with the panel, because I want to give you guys time for closing thoughts, just to give you a heads up. Common areas are well maintained. That's a no-brainer. It's part of your responsibility to make sure that they are. Gregg's nodding, and I realize it's also a safety issue with your insurance. Just about everybody cares about it, and you need to do it. Anybody on the panel disagree with that statement? Awesome. I'm not going to do the poll. Are the smartest board members the most vocal? This one's always like, no, they're not. But unfortunately, they're the ones that talk the most and filibuster. Proactively managing major projects. Cory, I think this is another one. It's obvious, right?
It's a major project. It means major money. It deserves major attention.
This is where it gets tricky, Cory, though. Fiduciary responsibility. They do have to, they're volunteer board members. They do have to hand off some of this responsibility. True or false?
Yeah, and they should Usually there's, I see very often that there's project managers. There's fees for project managers to manage the product who are experts in the field. It shouldn't be managed per se. If you're doing a construction contract and nobody on the board is a contractor or an architect or an engineer, they don't even know what they're looking at. So you have to make sure you have the right people in place. That's their fiduciary duty.
Jeremy, I'm thinking of the keyword we use all the time when boards do something to the best of their abilities and therefore most likely have coverage. Do you know what I'm thinking of?
No, but I was just going to say real quick, I think sometimes it's important to have good committees there also to help out with some of these major projects. But no, I don't know what you were talking about. My mind went blank.
I was thinking of the business judgment rule. Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, you're not wrong.
Oh, see that, Cory? That's a point up now,
Yeah.
not
Well,
down.
yeah.
Even Dawn's
Most even.
impressed, I could tell. John, commentary.
Yeah, so business judgment rule applies, and part of the business judgment rule is going to professionals and seeking their advice. So you get the protection by actually looking at getting the advice of an engineer or architect, et cetera.
Okay. Kristen and Dave, any commentary on this?
No.
Dawn, I know you're going to say, hey, send these major project contracts, please, to the insurance rep. Please, please, please.
You have to. There's always something in the contract that's going to transfer risk, and we want it to be transferred to the contractor performing the work, not to the association, which I will tell you, and Gregg will back me up on here, you board members are not calling your attorneys. You call them afterwards when there's a problem and it's more expensive. And how do we know that? Because there's a claim involved.
There's no time to go to Gregg unless he absolutely insists on it. Gregg, are you good? Okay.
I'm good.
Prepare for emergencies and disasters. I'm going to have to fly through this one. We've done entire hour segments on this. I think this is kind of a tricky one because there's a lot of gray areas in this. Looking for quick commentary, Kristen, if you can. It's unfair, but if you could.
Yeah, it goes to show the importance of reserves because those are certainly going to come into play in such a situation.
Oh, I was thinking of disasters, Kristen. Not natural disasters. Were reserves would
Oh,
be
well, reserves could certainly come into play if, there's significant damage involved or need for major repairs, but also, making sure it kind of plays into making sure that your insurance, contract is current, that you're familiar with your insurance obligations, because there's a major disaster and lots of people have their hands out looking for help and the board can't show that they insured the property as they were supposed to. That can lead to some significant liability.
Yeah, I didn't ask the question properly, Kristen. But reserves for the most part are used for planned expenses, right? Or is it also unplanned? I'm sorry.
I would say, speaking from experience in South Carolina, I would say that reserves can certainly be used for some planned expenses, but it's often necessary to dip into the reserves in emergencies.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Very, very quick, Dave, because we're not going to have time. Anybody have any additional commentary? Anybody? No. Okay. And I was critical vendors lined up. Yeah, you should have your critical vendors lined up, because if you don't, good luck trying to find somebody to fix your roof. It's just not going to happen if you don't know anybody. It's too late at that point. Good vendor relationships and contracts. We've already spoken about that. And the number one item is community satisfied and engaged. The reason it's on here is my research showed you just have to ask yourself as a board. Don't assume, just sit and ask yourself and then decide based on that. Maybe they're not. Maybe you think they're happy with you, but they may not be. Okay, let's do closing thoughts. There's a lot of people here. I wanted to make sure that we had time to get to it. And I'm sorry I keep going in the same order, but there's a lot here today, so I can't bounce around too much. And I'll start off with Elliot. Closing thoughts. And look at our time. So about less than a minute, if you can, please. 45 seconds. Maybe.
I just encourage board members and managers to proactively work with the association's professionals on major issues, because I promise you that when you put things off and you go to your attorney after the fact, it is more expensive than being proactive and saying, hey, we're thinking about X. Can we have a half-hour call to talk through what issues we might want to think of as red flags?
All right, Cory, I think Elliot took the most important but the easiest one. What do you got?
Yeah, and the biggest thing that I hear and our firm adapts to this is that we don't want our property managers to feel like they can't call us because they're going to get a bill and then they're going to have to explain the bill to the board and the board's yelling and screaming at them. If you're a property manager and you know something is the hairs in the back of your neck go up about something, call us. You're probably right, and we'll take care of you.
I wonder if Kristen and Dave are going to have something because they're so far behind the list. Let's see. Gregg.
It's been an excellent seminar with a lot of good points. I would just tell everyone to please do an annual review of each item. You may have been doing the same thing for collections or for the pool or what it was, but question each item and ask the lawyer or the next professional in line for that item, is this the best way to still continue to be doing this? And be proactive on making sure what you're doing is up to date.
Right, Gregg. That's what a lot of these slides are about today, right? Just to say as a board, just ask the question out loud and then move on, right? Because maybe you're not. Maybe you'll be surprised. Jeremy.
Yeah, I just echo what everyone else said. Rely on your professionals, like Gregg said. Try to do a review of everything. Don't just settle for the status quo.
Jeremy, very quickly, did you win the costume contest? What is that about? Very, very quickly.
What costume contest?
For your firm. Didn't Herschel have a really crazy kind of contest? But never mind.
Oh, yeah, I got married that day for the Christmas. It was at the Christmas party. I got married that weekend, so I was unable to attend.
Okay, well, whatever. You couldn't plan your wedding around Kevin's schedule. His crazy stuff he does. That's between you and him. Okay, John.
Yeah, so take advantage of the best practices that we've mentioned, and on an annual basis, it's you're volunteers, you're on a board. It's not an easy position to be in, but we're trying to offer these best practices to make to make it easier and to give you better management skills so that you can make your community satisfied.
Dawn.
I'm going to go a little bit different direction. We didn't talk about this today, but financial health is really important. And one of the things that Gregg and I are seeing is an uptick in thefts. So it would be mindful to talk about things with your CPA or accountant, also to look at how you are protecting yourself from using computers and software and managing passwords, etc. It's just really important that you take extra steps because there's always somebody that's out there looking to have an association part with their money.
Kristen.
I would echo everyone else's sentiments and also say that if you are watching this live stream, then you are already getting 2026 off to a good start for your community.
I know, that's what I say. Our audience is great because they're here and they go to other places to learn stuff. We got to get the other people on that are a bunch of morons that don't know what they're doing. Okay, Dave.
My point would be, I thought Elliot's comment earlier was very insightful, that clients and boards and managers don't really know how skeptical and suspicious judges are when it comes to fines and communities and punitive actions that boards want to take or have taken. A lot of my clients think they just put a number on an accounting and somehow that's the end of the discussion and they never have to go back and prove anything. You put a $100 fine on some guy's account and then that's the end of it. That's the end of it. It's really, really far from that. It's really, really important that if you're going to find someone, you take really good care and make sure you do it right.
Jeremy, I am going to do you a great service right now and make the panel very uncomfortable. There's 40 seconds. John, Jeremy, you're a newlywed, right? Obviously. John,
yeah.
What is your secret to a successful and happy marriage and keeping your wife happy? Give Jeremy, he's going to live with this information for his marriage depends on it. John, go. 30 seconds.
I'm not Dave Chesky.
I know, but go ahead. Hurry up. You got 18.
Listen to your wife.
What?
Listen to your wife. It's easy.
Listen.
Yeah.
You got to admit, he did come up with something. All right. Listen to your wife. There you go, Jeremy. Okay. Good advice from John.
Appreciate it.
I thank everybody for being here. Keep an eye on the schedule. You can always go to AssociationHelpNow.com. I also put all the chapter stuff on there also, so it's easy. Please contact me with topic ideas. Thank you so much for being here. Panel, you're awesome. Thank you. And I look forward to seeing people tomorrow for the manager segment we do. Bye, everybody. Thank you.